So what can you grow now? Today I'm going to share a list of 10 quick growing edible plants that you can sow today and still be getting crops before it gets too late and winter is here. Also are going to be obviously really quickly, so they're not going to take up that valuable space that you're going to want to use for autumn and winter season. So if you have gaps in your garden, you've pulled out some of your summer crops, then these will be really good for you to plant. Or if you have been struggling with some really bad weather, I know a lot of people have had a lot of rain, which is not the case here in Perth, but I know a lot of people are struggling with so much rain over this summer period. So if you have lost a lot of plants and you have some gaps, but you don't know what to plant and you want to make sure you still have room come autumn and winter, then these 10 quick growing edible plants are going to be perfect for you. And if you are on my mailing list, you would have already received this list, but stick around because I'm going to give you a little bit of tour of what's growing in my front raised garden beds, and we're going to plant some of these seeds together. So first up we have lettuce, and now lettuce often bolts in summer. It gets too hot and it goes to flower and seed. But you can start harvesting it when it's young and have a few leaves off each plant and get some food while it's growing. And because I plan on having this vining plant climbing up over here, it's going to provide a lot more shade so that it will slow down the lettuce from bolting, and by the time it is up and growing, hopefully it will be past all the hot weather anyway. So I'm going to plant some lettuce seeds today, and now all of these seeds I'm planting today I'm direct sowing, and that's just because I'm being lazy and it's too hot and I don't want to be caring for baby seedlings right now. They will dry out so quickly. I'll have to babysit them and I just don't feel like doing that. So we are direct sowing all the seeds, and if you want to know what seeds I normally direct sow, I have got a video on that. But yeah, I'm just going to plant extra and give this bed a really good water, and we will get some lettuces popping up. The sun is so bright. So I'm not going to be saving the seeds from this lettuce. I already have a lot of lettuce seeds. So what I'm going to do with this lettuce is I'm going to let it go to seed in the garden bed, and then I am just going to sprinkle the seeds throughout this garden bed and the other three, and that way the seeds will be in the soil, so when the time is right they will just pop up and self-seed on their own, and I will have random wild lettuce growing all through my garden beds. And that is one of the strategies that I have in a lot of my gardens. I like to let things go to seed, and the seeds will remain dormant in the soil until they get the right temperatures, and then they'll regrow. So this is not always successful. You don't always have things popping up because they get lots of mulch added on top of them, or bugs eat them, or anything like that. But a lot of the time I do get things popping up and I don't have to plant them, so I just get free seeds and seedlings. That is one of the systems I have in place to help keep my garden sustainable and renewing, and means that I have to input less energy. So that's one of the things I am really passionate about in my gardens. So we're going to let this one go to seed, and then once it goes to seed I will just pick off some of the seeds and start scattering them. But first up, let's plant some seeds, and to do that we really need to give these gardens a nice big water so that the soil is moist. It's the afternoon now, and it's a really good time to be planting seeds so that they have overnight for the water to absorb and settle in before we get hot days again. And I do have shade cloth up, so they are going to be a little bit more protected in these garden beds. Alright, so in this garden bed we've got chives, cucuzza, which is going to grow up and over, this lettuce which will come out eventually after it's gone to seed, already some radishes that I've planted earlier that are popping up here. This is a candy cane pepper, basil, thyme, pineapple sage, and a straggly old kale over there. So we've got lots of gaps in here obviously that we're going to fill, but I'm going to plant a lot of these lettuce seeds and the radish seeds around the outside of the bed, and I do that because they're really low lying, like this. They're really low lying, so having them around the edge of the bed allows me to plant the bigger things in the middle to the back, and they won't be too overshadowed. And because I don't know what I'm planting in here yet, I'm just going to leave the space. So we're going to plant some lettuces, some radishes along here. Alright, so number 2 we have is radish. Radish is a really quick growing crop. It can be ready to go in just 1 month, so we'll be planting lots of radish seeds in here and filling in the gaps. Radish is one of the plants that I always direct sow and plant in between other things because it doesn't take up much space and it can grow in varying amounts of light. So because I'm planting root vegetables, radish here, I'm not going to put the mulch back over top, otherwise they'll get a bit too leggy and they won't produce those roots. So any of the other ones like rainbow chard, I will put the mulch back over top, but with the root vegetables such as the radish, I'm going to leave it open. Alright, so number 3 we have is chard. Now I've already got some chard in some of these garden beds, and chard is something that I grow pretty much all year round. I do only have a few plants over summer because it doesn't really like the heat and it gets very crispy in the sun, but because I've got lots of shaded areas, I'm going to plant some more chard so that come autumn and winter I already have some on the go, and it's one of the staple things that I grow in my garden. I always grow rainbow chard. I just prefer it. I think it adds so much colour to the garden and to the plate. So we're going to plant some rainbow chard seeds. Now I've got yellow ones popping up here, so so hopefully some of these will be pink. Alright, so next up we have rocket. Now I've already got some rocket down here in this garden bed, and rocket's a really quick growing green that you can get on the go and start harvesting leaves as they come. It's a lot more spicy. It's a lot spicier in summer, but as long as you keep it well watered with some dappled shade, it's a great one to grow. So another root crop you can grow is carrots, and you can sprinkle your carrot seeds in between other ones as well. So I have been harvesting lots of carrots as I've been growing in this garden bed, so I'm going to add some more carrots into spaces, and again I always direct sow my carrots and all my root vegetables. So you can see in here this was a little patch of carrots. I've been harvesting these, and in here look at this strange thing. So we also have beetroot. So beetroot again is something that I tend to grow most of the year, and I interplant that as well. So I just plant beetroot in between other things, and I use the beetroot leaves just like I would spinach, and obviously the root crops are delicious too. I love growing the sweeter versions of the beetroot, so I don't grow a lot of the red kind. I grow the golden beetroot, the white beetroot, the candy cane striped beetroot, yeah, and a few of the red ones. But again, we're just going to pop some seeds in randomly. Spinach is another leafy green that you can plant now and get growing and start harvesting as it grows. So if you've got multiple different plants, just like with lettuce, you can harvest 1 or 2 leaves off each plant as they're growing so that it still has enough to grow, but you can get a bit of a harvest going with having 1 or 2 leaves from all your plants. And again, spinach is a really good staple crop to have in the garden. And that's something that's going to grow through autumn and winter too. So if you can get it going now, you're going to be a little bit of a step ahead. Again, it will benefit from having that dappled shade of some of your other larger plants that you've got, or your shade cloth. Bush beans, these grow sort of as a bush and they produce beans pretty quickly. So you can get your bush beans growing late summer and still get a really good crop out of them. Mustard greens, these are another edible green that you can start picking as they grow, 1 or 2 leaves off each plant, and you'll be able to get lots of salads and stir fries on the go. So basil, I've already got some basil growing in my garden beds. A lot of it is going to flower because it is so warm at the moment. So I'm going to plant some fresh basil plants, and that way I'll get a bit of a continual harvest going, and basil does grow quite quickly, so that is a great one to plant now. Basil will grow right up until you start getting frosts really, or some really cold weather. So it's still got quite a lot of time. It's got all of autumn really for us here in Perth before we'll start getting those colder temperatures when the basil will die down. I have managed to get basil growing all year round if it was protected by other plants, but it doesn't perform that well. So it's something that I like to plant fresh all the time. So make sure you give your seeds a really good watering, make sure the soil is moist before you're putting in the seeds, and keep watering them as you go. One thing that is really important to remember is if you do have garden beds that are empty and you've pulled the plants out and you're just sort of waiting for the next season to start, make sure you keep them well watered, especially in summer, because we want to make sure the soil stays alive, because the soil is what's going to feed and nourish our plants, and so it needs to be alive and thriving as well. So don't neglect your soil in summer and make sure you keep watering it even if there is no plants in there. Have you seen one of these before? It is an Indian heirloom cucumber. It is it ripens fully brown, which is super interesting, but you can eat them throughout the whole stage while they're green as well. So this one's got a patch still on it here, but I'm really excited to try this. Apparently they are really drought tolerant, so that is something that I would love to have in my garden. Yeah, something new. I always try and grow something new, and this one is new to me.